Hello, and welcome to the Jazz Right Now podcast. Jazz Right Now is a podcast based out of Purchase College that is dedicated to the art form of jazz and how we can elevate this music. Join us as we interview several different jazz musicians discussing jazz education, youth outreach, and several other topics. We hope to inspire seasoned jazz musicians or even young men and women who are just curious about this music. It'd be a pleasure to have you, so come join the Jazz Right Now podcast. Hello, welcome to the Jazz Right Now podcast with your host, Cooper Williford. Today we have a special guest. We have Matt Wilson, who's a teacher here at SUNY Purchase College, and he's one of our amazing drum professors in the Jazz Conservatory. And it's a pleasure to have him here because he's been such a successful jazz educator for so many years.
Oh, thank you.
So I'll just start with the first question.
Sure.
In through all your years as a jazz educator, how have you best gotten the youth excited about jazz music?
What's kept me excited?
What have you done to really get youth excited, the younger generation?
Yeah. Well, Cooper, I feel like I want to be a welcomer to their stories, to your stories, you know? So at the same time that to educate, it comes from a Latin word, educe, means to draw out of people. So I really feel like that what is great is that folks have the opportunity to discover what they want music to be for them, not what we particularly want it to be for them. We want to guide them for that, you know, and it doesn't matter what genre that is, you know, and be as supportive of it as possible. At the same time, you know, there's responsibilities on both ends, one of which we want to help your physical relationship with the instrument so that you're, you know, offering your sound and what your imagination is saying, your sonic imagination. You want to convey it with the least amount of resistance possible. You know, we all have resistance. We all have limitations. Those define us as much as our strengths, right? But this then will allow you to have that. And then I also think your imagination at the same time. So craft and imagination, I think, is very, very important. Because if you only work on the craft, then you're just repeating things. And if you, right. You know, and then, so you have to still work on, you know, what it means for you, you know, imagination wise. So that's why I try to open up people to as many things as possible, and that the answer is yes. I mean, learning is meant to try things and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, you try it again. You know, it's not like the all end all. That's what the safety of the building is about. I always try to say, you know, try things. If it doesn't work, try something else or try it again or whatever, you know. So that's really one of the things, is to encourage the personal growth in a lot of ways. You know? So it's been one of my intents. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even asking the question you asked, I mean, what's kept you excited as well?
Well, I think, you know, maintaining a performing career. I mean, that's the thing. We're this is a folk music. This is a storytelling music. So the information is available. The information's all right here. Or the information's, you know, some of that information, right? But not the stories. The stories have to come from sources, and sources gather these stories. And the anthropology of the music in a different sort of way. I believe, you know, that we need all kinds of different kinds of teachers. You know, it's all fine. It all works in the ecosystem of things. But in this instance, I think this is, you know, such a folk based, you know, music that we want to learn it from sources as much as possible. So that's why places like SUNY Purchase, the New School, San Francisco Conservatory, Manhattan School, where a lot of very active players are still there, and people see their excitement about creativity and keep expanding and keep working on their craft and pushing the limits of what music can be for them too at the same time. And there was some, a great one is saying, which I have a lot from a mentor named John Clayton, who's been great, the great bassist and educator, and all around, inspiring guy is, so go I, so go they. So if we're excited about it and we're trying and exploring, people are going to be too. And if it's just like, oh, here's the information, see you next week, then it's going to be that way. So I think it's really important to stay immersed in the music and learning all the time too. We're always learning. I mean, we're never get to the other side of music. We're always working on stuff. Both with mechanic technique and with our imaginations. So it's a combination of that all the time. So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, that's why I wanted to come to Purchase.
Yeah.
Work with people that are, experiencing the music right now, playing live and I mean, I guess not really right now, but
yeah, but it's coming back around, and that's still that is still there. I mean, you can't replace. A delay of this doesn't diminish it really, and
right.
The community. I think it's a social music, and so to be involved in the community. Now, again, I'm not saying that there are other places that are isolated and it's maybe not those kinds of folks, but it all depends on it's really about dedication all the way around. It's we can offer you things to learn, but we can't learn for you either. So there, it's like there's a lot of things that the student has to take charge of too. It's reciprocal, It's not just you telling things, It's like you to do. You've got to reciprocate. You got to work on it. You got to try. Agree, disagree, whatever. That's fine. Just face it, work on it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah,
yeah, that's great.
Yeah. We can instill things. We can instill principles and all that, but we can't learn for you. So people that are dedicated are going to do it. There's always that. Sometimes we get lucky, and there's a lot of people digging it, at the same time. I feel that way this year about the class I've had at Purchase, like digging in, learning, working on things. So that's great. It's great to see. It's great to see the dedication like that and the devotion to learning. It's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen that through your lessons. Just the amount of things you've opened us up to, just all the drummers.
Yeah, and hopefully music, just in general, and your imaginations and what the possibilities are. I mean, again, I don't, we want to create characters, or welcome characters, we can create them. We want to welcome, though. They're there. It's in you. It's in whomever, right? We can't, we don't want to block that conduit from that that inner spirit. We want to do everything we can to support that at the same time, provide the guidance that we can. So that's the way I feel about it the most. And fun learning is and supportive learning is just all the way around a better way. And sometimes you got to have the hammer put down. Like you need some tough love. But if it's all based that way a lot, then I think it has diminishing returns. So. I think the positivity aspect of things is another thing I try to bring to the table, to the affair of doing this. So, yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
Yeah. All right. This relates to youth again. What can the younger generation do to get other young people excited about music making and jazz music?
I think the best way is our interesting performances, that are at a high level, so presentations of the music that are intriguing, that aren't the same old, that aren't lazy, that aren't complacent, that aren't like, oh, well, we'll just, if we take away those words and Because if we listen to the masters of this music, they were very attentive to the details, and they offered that to it. So when we hear that level of care to it, then I think that's one. And I think sometimes um, we've we've taken that joy, or we've taken that notion out of it a little bit, just to get the details learned instead of the details refined. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes we want to. That's what we listen to recordings and we do research anthropology for, is to see what the dedication was prior, right? And carry that energy with us to do the same, to work on things, to work on their craft, to work on the ways of expanding our imaginations, work on new ways of presenting the music, or just different, and your story is different, right? I mean, you're a different generation. And pop music is different for you, and this and that, and technology was different, and everything, right? That so, it's going to be. We want to welcome, what you're gonna, what your, interests are to this, So I think that's a positive way to approach it. I'm very excited about the possibilities, all the time. We have to be. We have to maintain, the excitement and the enthusiasm for, what we can do, and stay focused on that. So it's good.
Yeah, I see. My next question is, do you have any problems with like the way jazz is taught in some schools? Uh, and this goes also to like middle school and high school, even. I mean, are there any like gripes you have with jazz education in any ways, or certain ways?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I instead of, my my way of approaching that is, instead of sitting around complaining about it, is try to help it as much as possible. I've served the music, I think, in a lot of different ways, a lot of different, as a player, as a band leader, as a composer, as a as an educator, as a teaching artist, as promoter, as a radio show host, as a writer, for magazines or articles or interviews, or do interviews. I had, I mean, there's all this, right? There's a lot of things, different things to do other than play our instrument really, really well, which is obviously at the highest level, right? But we want to, of our priorities, but at the same time, we want to make sure that what are we offering? What are we, what are we offering people's ears? What are we offering their spirits and souls? I think it's gone in many ways very positively, and I just feel that for a music that's supposed to really surprise us sometimes, or be, for lack of a better term, rebel music. It's not. It's become sort of safe, and and not as many characters. So I like seeing characters. I like hearing personalities. More than I do. And at the same time, we want people to know things on that, but sometimes, better just to find out, play it, find out what happens. One of the things I feel like that the younger musicians could do is be more proactive in offering their bands and their musics to the world. So jazz people, young rock bands go on the road and they sleep on couches and they play places. Young jazz people stay home and wait for the call, and think something's going to happen for them. If they went out and put that kind of energy into this, then people want to hear it. You've got to go out and do it. You've got to, and do it while while you're younger, to establish that kind of relationships with people, so that they, you find out what you do sounds in. It's not going to sound in everybody. You just find out who it sounds in, and you create, not only that with the spirit of the musicians that you're with, which is that community, your people is really, really important, but also the listeners, too. But, you're going to get that if the band is happening. So if we have good bands, So I advocate for bands, writing for the bands, putting the bands together, book the bands, take it out on the road, Don't sit around and wonder why it's not happening. Go out and, facilitate, create your own good luck is what I call it. I don't like saying good luck to anybody. I think it's corny. You create your own good luck. So you do all these different things to see, what doors may open, you know. So I think that's something that's pertinent also in the priority of things. But we've come a long way with it in a lot of ways, and then other ways we've not. It's a mystery. It's such an intangible, really. But I think the focus towards field, focus towards fun, the focus towards ways of offering sounds, the ways of improvising, and just having the music feel good, that's in the ear of the hearer also, right? That's in the ear of the player, and that's in the vibe of the player and the personality of the player, and it's also in the who's receiving it. But I think that's important to be brave, courageous with what you want to do, not safe. So one of the ways I think about it.
Yeah, well, I've thought about that, like all the people just waiting at home for the call.
Yeah.
But all these other musicians that just go on the road and stuff. I think that's a really good point. I had never really thought about that.
Yeah, find the places. There's people that want to hear it. There really are. It's one of the reasons I did with my band for the last close to 30 years is go out and play for people. And now busier and family and everything like that. But when I was younger, and I'm gonna do it again. Now that my kids are older, that's one of my priorities is to do that kind of same thing. Probably with a band of younger musicians, to help facilitate that. But I'm excited about that possibility also. So yeah, we still love bringing it to the people. It's and playing for people and that's how to me it's really how the music, that's how the research and development is done. That's how the growth is done, by the aspect of performance, So I think it's a priority.
Yeah, totally.
I think.
Yeah, I want to go back to one thing.
Sure. Yeah, please.
Sorry, the Zoom cut out.
Okay.
This, but you were
talking go ahead.
About.
Go ahead.
You were talking about how a lot of jazz musicians want to keep it safe.
I don't want to say a lot of them. I don't want to say that. I'm just saying it's one of the ways that people feel comfortable is okay, and other people are. I think it needs to exist. I'm not judgmental about any of that aspect of it, especially the older I get. People that are dedicated to what they do will do it at an extremely high level. We have to show the respect for, And so, people that have put in the effort, people that have, worked on sound, people that have worked on their craft, people that have, tried things and failed and tried again, And I think that's one of the things, I think that's, and be grateful for the for the opportunities too. That's the other thing, right? It's like is to show that grace towards being welcomed into this world and this community, which I find to be again one of the pillars of doing this is the community aspect and stuff, and that's how we learn.
Oh, yeah.
We learn by that, we learn by. Yeah. Those situations. So, and those situations have diminished, granted. Just the level of, the amount of activity that we consider what professional music activities diminished. But, I think the way to have that be, grow again and emerge and prosper is creating community. People, there are places in the country where people work on it and they get it together and that happens, so it takes effort. It takes effort to, I read a lot and you read a lot about painters' struggles and all kinds of artist struggles, composer struggles of all kinds. It's always been a daunting task to do this. It's not a clear-cut way. And so, Just saw a great
Yeah.
documentary on Matisse, and we think of, I actually have a print, and you think of his work being pretty, he got laughed at, we think that stuff is, but he was trying different things, so now it's accepted as the norm, or not a norm, but not as crazy or avant-garde as we would think. Matisse, so there again,
Yeah.
people that try things, you know. But in the words of Herbie Hancock, we don't remember the people that followed the rules.
That's right. That's a
So,
good point.
sometimes people that aren't perfect players or way they do things, but they may have this personality or the way of reaching people that is different, And so
Oh,
there's some people that have all of that, and then some. So we have that to also, but celebrate the musician in the music, and I think is one of the is a good priority to have too. So good, yeah, that's a good one.
yeah.
Yeah, respect. I mean, we
Yeah,
got
and
respect for people, like the effort they put into it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
my next question is how can jazz education, like in general, be improved? Especially in like a middle or high school band setting, even.
Uh, I think it has to do more. It has to be. It's a challenge. You know, education in general, and primary school. Middle school, high school is another isn't is a challenge. My late wife was a music string conductor and teacher for nearly over 20 years. Fortunately, we got sick and
Oh yeah.
unfortunately passed. But that's a hard job. You're dealing with kids that are on
Oh yeah.
this team and this team and this academic thing, and they got to go here and they got to go there. So So I think one of the things is you've got to almost the people that have done this and created that kind of world. It takes a while. You have to create legacy. You have to create you create trust. Relationships create trust, and then then the relationships, the trust, and then trust creates legacy. People after a while. You know, but I think that to me is one of the ways. But I think the anthropology has a lot to do with it. Learning beyond the notes. Learning that if it says Benny Carter in the corner, if it says John Coltrane in the corner, if it says Miles Davis in the corner, if it says Oliver Nelson in the corner, if it says Charles Mingus, learn about those people. Don't just learn the notes on the page, for the jazz band chart, And I think the more that we all dive into that and get inside the music and get inside the musicians, and their personalities, the better, So I think, and then feel, like I think working on time feels and the feeling of swing, and all that. I mean, that's um, and swing is a time melody, and swing is also an attitude. Swing is like being flexible and being open with the music, et cetera, et cetera. So, we have this swing, and then we have the vibe swing, is what I call it. So those are both very, very important, and also just letting them go, letting them try it. You know, go. You got. We don't.
Yeah.
Got to let them scrimmage, as we say. We got to let them. We can sit there and do drills all day at the baseball practice, but you still got to play the game. You still got to get. Still got to get on the basketball court and move around and figure out what it's like, right? So the same way, we got to let them scrimmage and find out. And so perform as much as possible. I think is one of the aspects of it too. Not just. And it's difficult. Scheduling is. So I really I have a huge amount of admiration for those teachers. It's easier for me as a college teacher. I'm sort of a finishing teacher, right? I get talented folks like yourself, or people that are really want to take this to another level. So it's not like I'm competing with all these other things sometimes. And And so the people that really do it at those levels, uh, they truly are, monumental figures, sheroes and heroes, as I say. They do. You know, I didn't have to sit there and listen. I didn't have to teach somebody those first few days of the clarinet, which could be,
Oh, yeah.
could be pretty daunting, right? So,
Yeah.
not exactly the pleasant, but I mean, boy, those people that do that and the love that they put into that, those are the people. So we want to. One of the things about jazz education, I think, that I feel that could improve it a lot, Cooper, is we help the students a lot, but we need to help the teachers a lot more. They got a lot going on. Maybe a place like the Purchase, the New School, Rutgers. I'm just thinking of Tri-State, Manhattan School, et cetera, et cetera. Could create an outreach program where we help the schools with the music by sending our students out. Then that way they'll also be learning pedagogy. So, and helping rhythm sections and helping with recordings and, listen to things and all that, create mentorships at different levels all the time. So we don't have these college students just sitting around, and we don't have high school students not understanding some of this. So send these folks out,
Yeah.
have them learn how to help people. They're going to have to learn how to do this. This is part of like the canon of a working musician now anyways, the ability to I believe, to be a teaching artist and be able to communicate ideas and concepts and help people sound better, immediately, like do things to help them sound better. So if that's one of the things that we can do, facilitate that for not only helping our neighborhood school programs, but helping our students get this kind of prowess together as communicators, then we're helping everything out. So I think that's a good thing.
All right.
That'd be a
Yeah.
great way to do it, too. I really
sure,
do.
yeah.
I've been saying that for years, Send these guys out, get them up. 7 o'clock morning jazz band rehearsal somewhere. Send the rhythm section from the college out there to help them, and bass settings and this and that and bass lines and stuff like that. And they'll learn to get some things together. So, and they're helping their community. We're helping the community that way. We're helping the music. Again, we can sit around and complain about hearing this stuff, or we can help it. I've been trying to be somebody that helps it. I don't. When you said the word gripe earlier, I don't try to gripe. I know it's a word. I try to gripe. I just try to go out and do something about it.
Yeah.
So be active and help it out as much as possible. And I can't
Yeah.
get to everything, but I try to do my best.
Yeah. I remember things like that in high school where professional musicians or like university musicians would come in, and it would be a big help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Just to
even
get.
hearing.
Yeah. Again, we look at these folks. They don't even have to do that. They have to do the concert band. They got to do marching band. They got to do fundraisers. They got to do all state. All these things. So unless there's just a jazz specialty person there, then it's a lot. They have a huge responsibility. So whatever we can do to help them out, I think is key. And we're not. They're not. We have. I think the musicians and sometimes we have to we have to realize what's happening in their shoes. It's not an easy job. So whatever we can do to help them as much as possible too, I think will help this growth that you were describing earlier, wanting to have to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question I'd like to jump to.
Sure.
It's still on topic. It's a bit different from the education thing, but this just relates to the whole importance of the music and like honoring the music. I just have a question. Do you think there's ways our country can elevate our music? Do you feel like we're not really doing enough, considering jazz is America's music? Because sometimes I just really feel like that. I feel like not enough people appreciate it or really care. And it's our, one original art form.
Yeah. I mean, we have other things that we've offered. too.
Yeah.
But um, there's always ways that we can improve it. I, I, I still believe that when it is, it has to be regular and it has to be in the community kind of aspect of things. You know, I think we have this sort of like, oh man, if we send out a jazz band to the school once a year or once every couple of years, we're going to turn all these kids on to jazz. And I think, that could be a possibility. We may get a few, and I think that's a cool way. But I think regular exposure to it in a lot of ways, and and family exposure to it. So families go and hear the music together, and I think again, when it gets explained and people understand it more, we thus then are welcoming people to be included a little bit more, a lot more actually. So sometimes it takes some explanation. Sometimes it's again getting back to presentation. Sometimes just ways of presenting the music will get more people out, and 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 all that. I think we have yearly, discussions about this, and I still think it comes down to the individual community. It really does. It takes someone who's crazy enough to start a series or to start something, and then it takes the crazy people that want to also be involved, and follow that person to do this, that to allow it to happen. That's why we have the We Always Swing series in Columbia, Missouri. Maybe the best jazz per capita in the United States is in Columbia, Missouri, as far as the number of concerts and the number of, and the support of the music.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, or the Gam Foundation in Salt Lake, or any number of the Iowa City Jazz Festival, or the Conservatory of the Jazz that teaches doing a lot of great stuff in Denver. We have the Seattle schools, we have the West, we have the you know New World in Florida. We have all this, right? So, but it needs to be. But I think community centers, stuff like that, people getting a chance to hear the music, experience the music on a regular basis, would be cool. And meet the people and get to know the folks, know the folks of the music, and then they start to do that. Then it's great, So that's one way I think to facilitate it more. Um,
Yeah, that's a great point.
yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about it. This doesn't seem to get any better.
Yeah.
I mean, other than effort, you know, people give up. People want to like, oh, if we don't have 800 people there, then it's like, oh, well, it's successful. Well, maybe 30 people, and then keep going. Maybe next time 40, and then maybe 50, and then maybe back down to 20, and then whatever. But you've got to do this regularly enough to get people and involved in all the other aspects of it. So I think it's key with all with all the aspects of the arts. Visual arts, performing arts. It's all a challenge in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
but I have faith. Just got to keep working on things. It's really one of the keys. I think we should instill that. Instill that in. That it takes this effort too. That nobody's going to do this for you. Everybody feels like there's going to be somebody out there ready to take you on and like promote your world to the end. You got to do it yourself. You got to figure out who you are and how to put it out there and do the music. So I think that's important. So.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. What else? What else you got, Coop?
I want to ask you this. How did some stuttered. How did some jazz educators like influence you and like change your life, and even influence your teaching?
Well, I was lucky in that I learned a lot from people playing. That's where I learned most of this. I went to school, but bachelor's degree. But I got a NEA National Endowment for the Arts apprenticeship grant in '84. I studied with somebody. I came to New York. I got to see a bunch of people. I saw Philly Joe Jones and Elvin Jones at the same time. I saw Billy Higgins. The first time I saw Airto, I saw Terry Lynn Carrington. You can't, you can. That's the thing, right? So you got to see the music. So
Oh yeah.
and hear the music. So that allowed me to do that, coming from I was going to school in Kansas at that point. So, but I also knew how important it was then to also create a scene where I was at. And we did. We were working all the time in that town. So, the answer is yes. If you want to do it, it's not a regional thing. Oh, they don't want to hear this. Yeah. They want to hear it if it's good. if it's the same old, if it's, lazy. Nobody wants to hear lazy, no subpar anything. If it's good, and then that's one of the aspects of it too. So having that level of that level of commitment to it is good. Is essential. So yeah, I have a lot of faith in it, but at the same time, people got to do it in their own ways, and they got to do it in their own backyards, and they got to help it. That's why we do. Man, look at Jazz House Kids in New Jersey is another great example. Or whatever. Around this Tucson area, the great high school in Houston that has welcomed and offered, has given us so many great players. And, maybe some of the most influential musicians of the last 20 years have come from Houston. So, there's something about that, right? And the ebb and flow of a strong, again, that's all about that legacy. It creates that legacy and that builds on each other. So we can, facilitate that in as many areas possible, in as many regional areas as possible. I think that's beneficial too. So it's good.
Yeah, that's cool you bring that up, because that's something I want to also discuss in not
Okay.
in this specific podcast, but I really wanted to ask Jay Lawrence questions about that, because he's done so much back home.
Yeah. It's one of the things we got to do. We got
Oh yeah.
yeah. We got to play and do things here. Wherever you are. Like that's one of the things is people's like. Sometimes that gets neglected. So I think it's whatever we can do. Again, it's service. We want to also serve it and not, ask what we can do for the music, not what it's going to do for us all the time. What are we going to go out and do to help it? What are we doing? So be cool. It's a good way to approach it, I think.
Yeah.
Valiant efforts. So
Awesome. Yeah. In your eyes, like what makes a good jazz educator?
It's kind of all the elements that we've been talking about, but is welcoming, giving the guidance about legacies of the music, the anthropology of music, the social aspects of the music, craft, obviously, right? Instrumental craft, working on the instrument, helping ways to do that. I mean, in the words of some friends, jazz trumpet's still involved in that. So you got to work on the trumpet, just like you got to work on these hear this. So our relationship with the instrument makes a big difference. So, but at the same time, we're always going to be working on that. That's another one of those journeys, like I mentioned earlier. We're never on the other side of. We're always constantly trying to figure out ways to help this, et cetera, et cetera. So, but that means we can't sit around and wait for that to be done in order to have music, happen, and projects, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's really important to be playing and have the music being played. I also think it's really important what makes a good teacher for me. One of the elements of a teacher overall is to teach what they know, and if they don't know it, find somebody who does. So you know what I mean? Like sometimes I don't know all the answers. So you know what? Have the um, integrity to go, you know what? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find somebody who can help us out with this question.
Yeah, I respect that.
And I think, because then, you're displaying to your student, like, I'm going to learn too. And getting back to what Mr. Clayton says, so go I, so go they. So, I'm learning. I'm checking this out. I'm getting excited. So I feel like sometimes, Cooper, I'm way more excited about this stuff than the students are.
Yeah.
And so, enthusiastic about it. Like, man, maybe because I've seen been there. I've got to do a lot of different things. I see how much fun and how great it is. And they don't always see that. But yeah, but we want to offer that world to them too. We want to offer that excitement, what it is to get to do this. It's a gift. And so, but then there's a balance. There's a balance of all of these elements. But I think one of the main things is to give them the permission. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
There you go. Walk out and do this. Let's do it, and let's do it where it's you guys. Where it's I have a dear friend in many people that are really I've had a lot of not only mentors for this, but peers that have been really inspiring as far as education. One of which is the great Winston Marsalis, another is the great Stefan Harris. And Stefan and I both were talking a few years ago about the great vibraphonist and composer and band leader. We were like an educator, brilliant cat. Like, I think we're just as excited about our students going up there and doing things that are at a high level as we are ourselves doing it, Yeah. There's a lot of pride in like knowing that you've helped people learn something that could help them with music, or help them with, or a lawyer or a farmer or a mechanic or a teacher or a doctor or whatever. These aspects of just, working on something and having the dedication and the abilities to welcome things, find out what their personalities are, So I think support and enthusiastic support, showing that kind of love, showing that kind of support again is essential, So I think that's it's been my dedication, and what I've learned the most from being around my older mentors is their ongoing love and their ongoing curiosity and their ongoing enthusiasm for this, Players that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s even, that are like, wow, this is, they still, this is their life. They love getting up there and doing this. It's not a chore. So that's great to see that, so try to also offer that, to folks, they're like, yeah, try it. Let's see what happens. May work, may not, but it's safe. Good. All right.
It's great to conclude this podcast with Matt Wilson, a great teacher here at SUNY Purchase College. And I'm just blown away by all the answers I was given and everything. A lot of stuff to think about just for myself. And thank you for listening.